Time to talk some La Liga. Francis with Phil. Make sure to check out all the information in the comment section below on Beyond the Pitch, the podcast. And we'll be doing some stuff with them in the near future as well. So, Phil, we're going to discuss La Liga. And I believe you talk La Liga as well on TalkSport, right?
I do,
You've talked
yes.
some stuff on there with them. That's a huge platform. I've listened to TalkSport even in the UK since I was a young lad. And they are... they're using your knowledge there to go into depth about La Liga, a league that I have vocalized is one of my favourite leagues in terms of the leagues throughout the world. I don't think it's as entertaining as the Premier League. I'm not going to start that discussion either. But this season, I'm interested to gauge your thoughts, first of all, about the competition throughout. Towards the end of last year, it was one of the closest we've seen in recent years. Atletico Madrid and Real Madrid pushing Barcelona. Barcelona, well, them taking advantage of a rare Barcelona mishap throughout that kind of shaky period towards the end. And then you look at the transfers that's happened this year. Barcelona, I think, have been one of the most efficient buyers in the window, buying young players, looking to strengthen in areas that they think will be essential going forward whilst maintaining the core of the team, which, of course, is Messi, Suarez and Neymar. And then Atletico Madrid being somewhat active in the transfer window, not as active with players leaving, which could be a good thing considering the last couple of years they've lost big-name players. And then Real Madrid. Arsenal effect, almost.
Yep.
One signing that's of notable value, bringing back some young players. So let's get your thoughts first of all. Who have you been impressed with the most in the transfer window so far out of those big three teams?
Ooh, out of the big three, you'd have to say Barcelona. Barcelona have been really pragmatic with their signings.
Yeah.
Digne, is a young player, had an exceptional season last year in France. Andre Gomez was a player that Real Madrid wanted.
Yeah.
They agreed a fee. Valencia are a really easy football club to do business with. They got him below his buyout clause. They're actually trying to get Paco Alcacer as well from Valencia. And due to the ease of doing business, they're expecting, his buyout clause is 80 million, Francis. They're looking to offer a lot less than that, plus Sergi Samper, who was excellent for them last season.
Yeah.
So it's been a really modest summer in Spain all round. Barcelona, Real Madrid. Real Madrid, as we've said, bizarrely not following the Galactico program of buying a lot of players, especially with a transfer ban coming up. They've also said they're not interested in Moussa Sissoko. Moussa Sissoko is very interested in Real Madrid.
Yeah, he is.
And then, of course, even outside the top three, you've got Sevilla, who have got 10 players in, 9 players out. Kept Monchi, which is really important for them. So I would say, of all the teams that I'm most impressed with in the top three would be Barcelona. But overall, I would say Sevilla. For the third year running, they've made a profit in the transfer market.
Yeah.
And they played Real Madrid 2 seasons ago in the Super Cup in Cardiff. 2 players remained from that team. Wow. So incredible what they do every summer to stay competitive.
Yeah. It's almost like they suffer a similar fate if you're going to make the comparison to a Southampton in the Premier League. And then we did another clip, by the way, which hopefully when this clip goes up, I'm sure it went up. Genoa kind of flew under the radar in Serie A. They've sold a ridiculous amount of players to both Milan teams throughout the history. So there is teams out there that they don't get to function the same way that the big name teams get to function because they don't have the kind of that weight to keep the players in. The Borussia Dortmunds of the world as well, another one. Despite many Dortmund fans not admitting to it, unfortunately it is the harsh reality, even though Dortmund, as we'll get to, have been very active in the transfer window as well. So I wanted to mirror what you said about Barcelona. I did a clip specifically a few weeks back and how they were the silent assassins. It wasn't as much that they were silent. People knew about the transfers, but the names weren't the names of Paul Pogba. They weren't the names of Zlatan Ibrahimovic. They didn't even seem to be interested even in Pogba, even though he would be a player that we'd all love to see in a Barcelona
But they recruited him for a year.
Yeah, they could have, exactly. So, and what I seen was Luis Enrique clearly identify areas of weakness from last year and clearly go in to try and shore up those positions. So Barcelona at times, when they flood the flanks and they go forward, they often leave themselves susceptible to counterattacks. So you bring in a guy, like you mentioned, like Digne, who is in the past proven to be an efficient defender. And then you bring in Umtiti at the back, who already has shown that he has got that sense of belief in his own ability to play at the highest level, playing in the Euro 2016 final, coming in and doing a stand-up job in the semi-final. So Barcelona this season, buying young players, but also that have shown promise, and then the best signing of them all, that I still will argue is the top 5 signings from all of the players throughout the transfer window, is Denis Suarez. The player that they let go and he performed ridiculously well for Villarreal, coming up with something like 11 assists in the Europa League, helping maintain their level of success. And the reason why, Phil, is what I highlighted before, is you bring him in, what he offers different than an Arda Turan is Arda Turan will try and emulate what maybe a Messi is trying to do, coming in deep, trying to take the ball and won't make things happen because he's a talented player, or a Neymar cutting inside and trying to support Suarez. Denis Suarez is a naturally wide player. He'll hug the touchline. He'll give you more width. He'll try and change something up a little bit. So if you're going to put on a sub, yeah, it's good when you put on a sub and you want them to go in and try to reiterate what's been doing, but sometimes you need a change. Sometimes you need something different, and you bring on a player like that. So I've been very impressed with Luis Enrique's business. He's been like a real Wall Street businessman in there. He's been going in, understands what his weaknesses are, and try to shore them up.
You know, it's funny because when we've had the discussion about Pep Guardiola and whether some people try to detract from his success, saying he was in the right place at the right time, having key players at the peak of their career. Yeah. Luis Enrique has come in and he broke the record in one season, broke Guardiola's record, but had a totally different Barcelona and had to buy right. He had a Wayne and Xavi. Yeah. He had to get the best out of Iniesta, who can't play 90 minutes anymore. So you could almost argue what Luis Enrique has done at Barcelona is at least on a par with what Pep Guardiola did, because he didn't have the luxury. Also, he had the issue of not having the complete support of the board behind him. Yeah. When you had the split with Carlos Puyol and Zubizarreta, Luis Enrique wasn't showing up for meetings with the board. And after he lost in his first season away to Real Sociedad, 1-0, where he was rotating the squad a lot, Real Madrid had an exceptional start this season. He was about to be sacked. Yeah. Maybe the next game saved his skin. Then, you could argue, due to the rotation, Barcelona finished really strong. Second half of the season were exceptional and went on to win the league. So I think, given what happened to him at Roma, the way he's come into Barcelona under enormous pressure, bought well, and basically revitalised Barcelona, he deserves enormous credit. And that's a very difficult football club to manage. Yeah,
undoubtedly. So with that being said, they're the reigning champions. Do you see them going on to repeat, or do you think it's going to be a Real Madrid or an Atletico Madrid badge on the end of that La Liga trophy at the end of the season?
I think for Atletico Madrid to win it, Real Madrid and Barcelona have to underperform. Yeah. And so much has to go right for Atletico Madrid. So really, to separate Barcelona and Real Madrid, you're tossing a coin. Yeah. I'm going to say Barcelona will win it simply because over a 38-game season, I don't know enough about Zidane yet to say that I'm confident he can win a La Liga, and the margin for error is so small, despite the fact he won the European Cup. I'm going to say Barcelona.
I can't disagree. I'm sticking with Barcelona. But that being said, as I mentioned last night in my reference on the podcast when we were talking about it, it sometimes is good to not try and change your shoes every single summer and bring in the new flashy pair and be the new kid on the block that, look at me, I'm a Galactico, I'm in, and I've got James Rodriguez, now the most expensive player to be sitting on the bench. Because Zinedine Zidane, I think, has a better chance as what Rafa Benitez did at the start of last season and as what has been done before, because he at least knows the core of that team. He knows the system that works. I love that Casemiro is just as an important figure in that team as Ronaldo, because he knows what it takes to get the job done. And when you're looking at Real Madrid going forward this year, it's almost like they have new signings because they have a Gareth Bale who is only getting better at the moment, shown that in the Euros. They bring in an Alvaro Morata who is used to fighting for his place. He's not going to come in with that ego of new signings at Real Madrid, but like, I'm entitled to get this. I'm entitled to be started. He knows that Karim Benzema is still the number 9, but he'll work his butt off to try and get that position. If he didn't imagine doing that, he wouldn't have signed back for Real Madrid. He would have went elsewhere. He would have stayed at Juventus and did the same thing. But he felt that Zinedine Zidane was going to give him the opportunity, and he is a player that can contribute off the bench. We remember that goal against Bayern Munich, almost wonder Messi-esque when he was dribbling through players, and he's got talent to add something different. So as much as often every year when people try to separate Real Madrid from Barcelona, correct me if I'm wrong, most people look at the signings that Real Madrid have brought in. They don't usually look at Barcelona's signings because they know what they're going to get. They know that that infrastructure's moulded around the likes of Messi. But when Real Madrid, people often decide, all right, who'd they bring in this year? All right, they brought in James, Cruz. They're going to win it. They've got all these new guys coming in. They're going to win it. But it doesn't always work that way. Real Madrid are the best case study to see. To win La Liga is, for Real Madrid, a lot harder than to win the Champions League, because one-off games, they can switch, they can turn it in the drop of a hat. But consistency, as you mentioned, is the thing that differentiates Barcelona from Real Madrid in the league, and I still don't know if they have enough consistency this year to do it.
I also think you can't underestimate the change between Rafa Benitez and Zidane.
Yeah.
Rafa Benitez wasn't a popular guy at Valdebebas. He was a guy that come in very analytical, like a Fabio Capello, almost like a Louis van Gaal in how he micromanages players.
Yeah.
Zidane comes in behind him. He's the guy that puts the arm on his shoulder, lifts the spirits of the players, and gets that momentum to finish the season strong. Now, what's going to be asked of Zidane, and I think you're going to find a lot out about him as a coach, now you've got to get the best out of people like James Rodriguez that have been underperforming. Yeah. Now you've got to get the best out of people like Isco. Yeah. Players that, into their second season with Zidane, what we see with great coaches isn't that, you can buy great players. It's they get the best and get players to play above themselves. Yeah. If Zidane can do that with the players that he has, I think man for man, Real Madrid have a better squad than Barcelona. Wow. If he can do that, then I think Real Madrid could take the title. That's the question mark.
Yeah, and he's clearly putting an emphasis on young players as well. Yeah. With Asensio in there, who's just been banging in 30-plus yard shots from distance, smacked a couple in pre-season. Lucas Vazquez, he obviously let Hesse go over to PSG. So he has his priorities set, but he also has faith in youth, which is something that definitely hasn't always been said for Real Madrid. They've often sold on a lot of their young players. But the last question, really quick before we wrap it up. We're on the same boat. I think it goes Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Atletico Madrid again. Any other team that we haven't mentioned that you think could push to potentially upset the top 4, top 5 in that league? I know you mentioned Sevilla earlier on. What about Valencia, or maybe a Villarreal in there that could potentially push?
Valencia haven't strengthened enough pre-season for me. Still too many question marks. Villarreal are always going to be a team top 6. But don't have a lot of money. They've just lost Soldado for 6 months. They've brought in Pato. We'll see how he gets on. They sold also Eric Bailly for 30 million. Question is how do they replace them? But it's a football club that is so well run, exceptional youth academy. So I would say top 6 for them again.
All right. Well, as always, it has been a pleasure to have you on, mate. That was a very in-depth breakdown. If you think you could get better anywhere else, then hit me in the links and I will check that out, and then I'll probably disagree either way. But make sure to come back onto TYTSports. Check out Beyond the Pitch. Very similar analysis on there in podcast format. We go off on tangents, even talk about what we were talking about last night. I think we went on to talk a little bit about, there was more discussions about that school-based kid that has the nice shoes that doesn't always fit, and the way that Real Madrid act every single transfer window. So I think it's a blessing that Florentino Perez has decided to sit back, relax, and let his team go to work this season. So let us know what you think in the comments. Hit us up on Twitter, and we'll catch you guys very soon.